Hello, welcome pen friends. It's time for the June 2022 progress report, which is just in the middle of the month. I jump in and let you know how I'm doing with my inks and pens for the month. And I kind of expanded. It was sort of a little side road I went down. So I ended up with 3 more pens inked up, but you'll see why, because what I'm going to do is take you through my Tomoe River 68 GSM paper journal, and you'll kind of see how it progressed. And then there's a couple other little things in the Unison composition book, but I want to kind of focus on the Tomoe River journal, and also I have a loose paper of the Cosmo Air Light. So we'll start in here because that is where I really concentrated this time. And I do have grades done, even though it's just midterm or whatever you want to call it, and it is straight A's. However, it's so funny because I usually grade in the composition book, which is the Made in Vietnam paper, and I decided not to do that. I didn't think it was fair to, especially to the stub nibs. So I did the grades strictly based on the 2 papers, the Tomoe River and the Cosmo Air Light. So just keep that in mind if you're a fan like I am of the other paper. I'm going to show you a couple problems that I had with a couple of these inks and nib combinations in that paper. But before we even look at that, let's look at the very specifics. I'm going to make this bigger. Whoops. Okay, so first up was the TWSBI Eco in the rose gold and white with the Diplomat Caribbean, and that's this ink. And this is just delightful on this paper. It's really pretty. It's flowy. It's a stunning color, teal. I love it. I just love it. And I just did a bunch of, I dated my pages as I was going along with a stamper. And I just made daily, notes about what was happening just so I could get a longer ink sample, writing sample there. I think pretty much throughout this, I was looking up availability just for my own sake. And I found out that that Van Ness carries these Diplomat inks. And it also says by Octopus Fluids for $10.45 for a 30 ml bottle, making it 35 cents a ml. I have to tell you, I have to be honest, I got really tempted by several of the inks that I was writing with just sample this month. But so far, I haven't ordered any ink, and that's a knock on wood for me, because another one that I'm really tempted by came in on a pen friend letter. It was this Dominant Industry Autumn Forest, and it's like, oh, I'm sure I have several of those dark gray type inks that are a little bit green. I know I do, so I just need to dig them all out. But it also has a shimmer and some interesting highlights. So I have my cart full at Van Ness, but I've been really good because it just isn't what I'm doing. I have so many samples and so many bottles of ink. But these both of these Diplomat inks, especially this one, the next one. So let's get right into that one. That one tempts me sorely because it's that color I love so much. But take a look. This is what I discovered. Of course I love it. It's this almost, it's so similar to the Pilot ink that I love, and I do have a little bottle of this. So it's like, okay, Chris, let's do this. Whenever we're tempted by an ink, let's dig out everything we have in that color and really get down to it. So if I can pass on anything, it would be that, because that's what finally made me realize I have a whole bottle of that. Why would I need another, even though I love the Diplomat Orchid? So this is the Lamy Safari with a broad nib, and this ink is delightful. It flows so well in this broad nib, and it's just really pretty when it's activated. Down here it's activated with the water brush, and I love it. So in my letters it's been great. It's the first one I usually reach for is the pink. So we'll flip back on those 2 grades. Okay, so I did grade the Lamy Safari with the broad nib and Diplomat Orchid as an A+, and the particular combination of the TWSBI Eco and the stub with the Caribbean, I did give it an A, and I think that's because it didn't hold up as well as the broad nib did on the other papers, the cheaper paper, the Vietnam-made paper. So I couldn't help but be biased, even though I was trying to grade just for the good papers. So that's how that came out. Then next up is the gorgeous Birmingham Antique Sepia in the beautiful TWSBI Eco Jade. And this is really, really pretty. It's another one that made me go looking online and check the price and all of that. And actually, did I write? Yeah, I wrote it down because this was pretty astounding. $15, 60 ml bottle, 25 cents a mil. But again, I have to pull out everything I have that looks sort of a, well, it's like a brushed, I couldn't figure out what color it really was. I suppose it's brown, but to me, it kind of looks to my eye almost to be a gray, and it has the green tint. There's the chromatography. That I hadn't done that until this ink, and I started pulling out my strips because I thought I was really kind of blown away by the complexity of this ink, like trying to categorize it. And I guess I didn't bother to see what Birmingham calls it even. Probably someone else has got a color word for this ink, but to me, I'm looking at it and I see those the chalky colored candies that used to come in the Necco. That's what it looks like. And I remember saying that about another ink, but I'm not sure which one. So I'm going to be diving into some of my older ink journals to try to find out which one it was. Possibly I can get my little color file and see too. That will help. But that's what the fun is for me. Even though someone else has invented the wheel, I would just love to go and try to do it myself too. So this is really nice. It's lighter in a nib than I normally like, but I still like it. It's so soothing on the eye. It's not quite gray to my eye. It's more like a chalky light brown, kind of interesting. Anyway, I really love it. And there's been no flow issues whatsoever. Okay, so then next up was the Jinhao 992 with Monarcha. Why can I not pronounce the simplest things? Nopal. This is beautiful. It's flowy. It's got a TWSBI broad nib on it. I'm not even sure you're supposed to do that, but I did it and it works. So it has kind of a nice solid gray line, and then it goes up to green. This is just nice. It's very nice. It's a brand from Mexico. Availability. Oh, okay. I found this at Van Ness, 30 mil for $20, making it, is that right? 67 cents a mil? I need to do some calculations, but if I stop to do that right now, I will run out of time. So I'll do that before I do the, I'll check my math. Okay, then next up was the Lamy Safari in Terra. Yeah, Terra with Diamine Brandy Snap. Okay, I haven't corrected that. I corrected some other things, but these, I had two mistakes on my actual tiles. This is Brandy Snap. They're now available in some different bottle sizes. I was really amazed at this. That's why I got so tempted. I didn't know they had a 12 ml bottle for $50. Now that's interesting. That's kind of how it came for the ink vent. So, and $3 for a sample. Coco, you'll have to stay there. You wait. This is really pretty. I have some others that I like better in this color, but it flows well. It's great in a broad nib, and I just love it. Poor Coco, he wants to climb up on top of here, and there will be an avalanche if he does, so I'm trying to avoid that. Okay, the next pen is the Jinhao X750 with a broad Yo-O nib on it, and this is the Shimmering Sands finish, which I love this pen. And I actually really am glad that I have the broad nib on it. I'm going to keep it on there. I had something else on it and I wasn't writing with it as much. But this is really, really pretty, and it flows really well for such a dark saturated thick ink with the particle and the sheen, and you know, it's got a lot going on. It's a shimmer. It's just gorgeous. Look what happens when you activate it with the brush. Oh, that day I wrote, Coco has taken my chair. He also helped me strip the sheets. Yeah, that's really something when a cat tries to help you make the bed. It's always interesting, but that was that day, June 6th. This month is just going on fast. But I love this. I haven't had any problems with this. We'll have to kind of check in on that when we get on the other paper, but I'm pretty sure I'm speaking correctly that I really love it. So let's see what grade I gave it. Demons. I gave it an A. Saturated, beautiful, ink sheen, and shimmer. Yeah, it was hard to wow me after the Diplomat Orchid because of the color, I think. And then the this ink here, the Organic Studio ink, really blew me away, but we're almost to that. We'll get to that in a minute. So I was having kind of it was a competition, sort of in my mind. Oh, he's playing now with my pen case. Okay, next up was another TWSBI Eco Stub with the beautiful Robert Oster Australian Opal Mauve. Now this is another one that's a little bit light for my taste of saturation, yet there's plenty of readability, and I love it. I could not find it still for sale. I think this is a 2017 ink. That's the best of my research unveiled that. But it's very pretty. I think I'm going to like it a little bit better in a broad nib. These stub nibs are a little dry, and we're headed towards something, a new discovery that that I made with the help of a pen friend about stub nibs. But anyway, I digress all over the place. Okay, then why do I have the sense I've forgotten something? It's because he's finally jumped up in his new place. He's got a chair next to me, Coco does, and that's a good place. You're a good boy. Yeah. He knows he can get into the video when it's a face-to-face talking video, but when it's like this, it kind of disrupts the whole thing. Okay, so next up is the one that ties really with me. These two just really stole the show this month, or so far. Diplomat Orchid and Colorverse. No, it's not Colorverse. This is the part that I have not corrected. It's Organic Studio. It was just a mislabeled vial, that's all. And thank you for those who corrected me. I did get it corrected on here. By the time I did that, then I knew what was going on, which it would have been real hard to find it if I had thought I was looking for Colorverse. So Van Ness had this out of stock, and then I didn't look further, except for I did look at Goulet real quickly, it looks like. But I'm not buying ink, so I was trying really carefully not to let this research activate any ink buying, because that can happen. This is a stunning teal. It's just beautiful. I made a note that these Organic Studios inks, that the ones I've seen that I like, usually they sell out kind of quickly. At least that's my impression. But at times I don't go back and look because I don't want to tempt myself with an ink rack right in front of my nose. It's full. It just doesn't make sense. But this is gorgeous. In letters, this has been so pretty. It has so much shading, and it's smooth, and it's thick, and just and yet it flows so well. And this is the broad Goulet nib, the black one. I love that nib. This is a great combination. So good thing it was out of stock. Okay, so now on to the little adventure, the side trip that I took. Okay, so primarily I want to talk about these two entries in the ink journal, which are with two different Lamy stub nibs. But first, I will tell you that this entry has to do with me going through all my pens looking for... I was looking for something, a particular nib, so I had to look at everything that holds number 6 nib, and I found this, and it made me think of the this ink here, the Van Diemen's Tiger Prowl. It's a beautiful and stunning shimmer ink. Let's see if I can show you. Wow, it's hard. My lighting and my glasses between the two. Anyway, it's got green sheen and ooh, shimmery, and it's just gorgeous, and I couldn't help myself. I ended up inking this up, and I'm not sure what day, but it falls between June 6th stamper and June 10th, so it was sometime in there. And I've been using it to write letters too, so that's how this came about. I want to do a deeper dive with it, but this is an excellent combination. It is a Nemesine 0.8 nib that was given to me by pen friend Miss Turtle, and I absolutely love it on this, and I felt like this pen just was great. Anyway, that's what happens. I get sidetracked. So then I got a letter from a pen friend earlier this week, or last week, I guess, that she was using the Lamy 1.5, and I've never owned one. And I got to thinking about it after seeing how beautiful it looked with some of her really even lighter inks. And so I ordered one of these nibs, just the nib with remaining channel money, and it's just blew me away. Of course, I did choose the Pilot ink I was talking about, the one that is such a beautiful pink. I just love it to death. And this came from pen friend MB, this little bottle. Anyway, I know that this is a flowy ink, so maybe it wasn't entirely fair, but it was, because I did go back and put the same ink in a Lamy 1.1 just to compare how the two Lamy nibs did with the same ink, and it just kind of blew me away. This is great too, but keep in mind this is a flowy ink, so you know, this was great on this paper especially, and on my letter writing paper, which we'll get up to next. That's the Cosmo. But when it came down to the Vietnam made paper, the Unison, then that's where this nib can do me lots of favors. So I can count on being able to use this nib as a stub in that paper, and I'll show you that in a few minutes. So anyway, this is just to explain the rabbit hole I got down, but I'm thrilled with this because I don't dislike the Lamy 1.1 nibs. I actually don't dislike them, but they're not the ones I reach for unless I'm absolutely sure of the ink. Like, there's a few that I could say, like Aurora and Klinger Cassia. Even, I use this even with, well, all flowy inks, all of the inks that I just know I can count on. And that's hard to generalize brand-wise because there's a lot of variety within a brand. So, okay, I don't want to get too far down or I'm going to run out of time. Okay, let's look real quickly before we go into, we're only going to spend a few minutes in the Unison book because that didn't work quite as well this time with the stub nibs. So, but this is the Cosmo Air Light paper that I bought with channel money, and I'm using it to write pen pal letters this month, and it's such great paper. I only noticed one thing about the paper so far. If you have anything on your hands that it hasn't fully dried, it's more so even than Tomoe River to kind of pick that up. I don't know if you can see that even. I must have had some of that brown ink on my hands. And that's something to be careful of anyway. Also, super careful with lotions and things like that, because I noticed that this is very sensitive paper, but I'm loving it. I'm really glad I got it. And as you can probably see, it really, really displays the ink nicely. It shows the shading, even in your little swatch. It gives you such a beautiful display of the ink. And this one, this Robert Oster Australian Opal Mauve, you can see that. I'm hoping I can get it up there far enough so you can see the shading, and you can see the shading in the Brandy Snap. The sheen kind of takes a shading quality in the Walden Pond Blue. But then all of the inks display all of their interesting qualities on here. So I love the paper. There'll be more on that. But I want to spend just a few minutes in the other ink journal. Okay, here we are. This is the Unison Composition Book, a 50-cent notebook from Target. The paper's made in Vietnam, and this was a gift from pen friend Marilyn because I kept driving to Target over and over and over, and I cannot find one on the shelf, and I didn't want to order $30 worth of stuff at Target. But anyway, that was a really, really nice thing for him to share one of these with me. First thing I wanted to mention was that I added to my little ongoing chart of inks to contemplate for inking up because pen friend Kathy sent me some more samples. So these are all Conklin, and I think these are the first that I've had of Conklin, but I could be wrong. I'd have to look over everything to see because at this point, this is an ink factory warehouse, I think. But okay, so real quick, on this paper, I made discoveries pretty quickly, immediately. The Diplomat Caribbean in the TWSBI Eco 1.1, it was a little difficult. I said not a great combination. No, it would have been better in a broad nib, but that's okay. That's nib ink paper issue, not anything to do with anything separate. It's when you get them all together. And then on the Lamy broad nib, and that's why you see all these empty squares. I decided not to grade it just on this paper. I may still do that. The month is only half over, but the Lamy broad nib with Diplomat Orchid was great. No problems at all. That's why I get the feeling that this would be okay in a broad nib. And then the TWSBI Eco broad with the Birmingham Antique Sepia, same thing. And now it's a little bit light. You could probably see that, but it's readable and it's pretty. There were no flow issues with that. And absolutely none with this Jinhao 992 with the broad TWSBI nib with the Monarcha. It's just some kind of a brain thing. Ooh, my stomach is hungry, I guess, growling. This was great, and it's a pleasing color. So then, no problems with the Diamine Brandish Snap in the Lamy broad nib. But I had massive problems with this combination. The Robert Oster Australian Opal Mauve did not like this paper, and the nib did not like this paper. So it's okay. It's okay. We just won't be doing that again. We'll put it in a broad nib or a flex nib or something like that. So then next, as far as Van Diemen's Shooting Star in the Shimmering Sands Broad Yowo, that was great. That was really, really nice. Let's see if you can see all that beauty coming out. It's shimmery, it's sheeny. These beautiful inks just get me back into the ink journal, and it doesn't really matter whether I just splatter or play with a paintbrush or have it in a nib. It's a mood lifter, and I sure need that right now. So, okay, then next up was the Jinhao, I'm trying to show you the sheen, 159 with the Organic Studio Henry David Thoreau Walden Pond Blue. Beautiful, flowy, even on this paper. Lots of sheen, and which creates like shading. So you can't say it doesn't have shading because it does. It's so interesting because you get that beautiful teal, and then you get the kind of dark sheen in your writing. And then over here, we just, it looks like I might have forgotten to write with the Tiger ink. That's okay. That was just one of those impulsive ink ups. But I did go ahead and kind of contemplate this new nib, the 1.5 versus the 1.1 Lamy. I like them both, but if I had to choose, I definitely would choose the 1.5 because I think it then increases the ability of the ink to flow well for some reason. And maybe yeah, I need to visit this more and more because I've only had this nib in-house 5 days. So, yeah, or something like that. I don't know. Just a few days. It feels like a new, exciting adventure. So, then I did compare how on this paper, of course, the Pilot ink just kind of blows everything out of the water, even in the 1.1. So I went and did a little chart, and you could see that the Robert Oster Australian Opal Mauve just struggled. And I will need to check into that and make sure what's, you know, I used my loop and I checked it as much as I could, but after I cleaned the pen and examined it better to see if there was anything else going on, but I don't think so. I think it's just that this ink is too dry for this nib and paper. Because the Diplomat Caribbean was struggling too a bit on this paper. And if I had to grade that, it was not going to get a good grade. It was not a good combo. This was written with a marker. That's confusing. Okay. So anyway, that is where I'm at with this, and I do like the fact that I had the 8 to begin with, and it's okay that I added some more. It is really because it's given me such a neat opportunity to try out this the 1.5. I can't believe I hadn't already ordered one. I know people have mentioned it to me before. I'm just kind of slow on picking up new things lately. I felt so overwhelmed with everything, but that's adding one new nib is great, because I've got all these inks and I've got all these Lamy bodies that I can use it on, so it makes it versatile. And that that's really what I'm looking for, is using up the ink supply, or at least the samples, and then things like this, like a nib like this, that will add to it without a whole new pen or system. That's fantastic. So I know I sound really happy. That's because this is the happy corner. The ink, the pens, the paper, the writing. That's the happy corner right now, let me tell you. And I need to stay in it, at least a little bit each day. So I wanted to share with you how that was going, and whatever I could share, and hopefully it'll give you a little idea of inks you might want to explore, or nib changes, or the whole that whole idea. It really is, it goes right back to my first couple of years in the hobby, when I discovered right away that the key was going to be finding pens that I felt really comfortable switching the nibs out on, so that I didn't feel like I had to have 105 different of the same pen, because that is one of the things that I still haven't gotten over, that phobia of switching the nibs on the TWSBI, because I ruined a feed on a 992 once, and they're very similar. They're not exactly the same, but I understood from Brian Goulet that they're a little bit fragile, and I'm not exactly a lumberjack, but I've been known to break things, so I don't want to do that. Okay, I'm going to stop talking now and get going on this, so that it can be there for you. And I hope that you're having some good pen, ink, and paper experiences. And I'm sure there's lots more to come. So I will talk to you later, and you take care. Bye for now.